Hello and welcome, my creative friends. Dr. Minette Riordan here from Painting in Your PJs, live with Minette. Today, I want to share a little bit about our brand new planning printables, and I'll say more about that in a bit, called Creative Planning Your Way. But before I dive in and do a walkthrough of the printables themselves, I want to talk about why I'm such an advocate and fan of planning, and why no matter where you are in your career, whether you're retired, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a full-time working artist, or whether you have a side hustle, planning is essential to getting the things done that matter most to us. And what happens with creatives is that we want to go with the flow. We want to be on our own schedule. A lot of us have a loud inner rebel that kind of kicks its heels up and has a lot of resistance to structure. And in my life before I became a coach for women in midlife who are trying to find their identity and purpose, I was a publisher of a parenting magazine for a decade, and then I was a business coach for artists and creatives for a decade. And what I discovered all the way along was that knowing what matters and what's important to us and learning to prioritize our goals and dreams is the most important thing that we can do for ourselves. And I don't know why my lights and my camera seem to be going a little bonky on me, but this is how we roll. This is not a perfect video. And as I started really diving deep into this idea of what I love to call structure and flow, my husband and I used to have a podcast for a couple of years called Structure and Flow, was all about ways to make our creative brains okay with planning. And one of the first things that I discovered about myself in planning was that it has a lot to do with having choices and not being super restrictive with what gets done when. So for a lot of people, time blocking is a powerful tool that works really well. What I discovered for creatives is that we go into resistance if I say, well, I have to paint at 9 a.m., or I'm going to write my email newsletter, or I'm going to go call the insurance guy to redo our home insurance. Like whatever that task is, if we say we're going to do that at a particular time, we can kind of get a little bit anxious about that. So what I recommend for creatives when you're planning your day, and I'll talk more about this as we get into the actual pages of the planner, is to allow choice and flexibility in your schedule. So schedules are so valuable and they don't have to be so rigid. And I'm going to show you some ways to do that. And the other thing that I want to say about this planner in particular, so this is not a daily planner for your whole life. This is really about looking specifically at your creative goals and making sure that you're prioritizing time for the things in your life that you say matter the most. So this isn't meant to replace your calendar system that you love. This is more about getting into the habit and finding a structure and a rhythm to your days that is a fit and a match for you. So I think I'll just dive right in, and I think this will become even more clear as I walk through, but please feel free to post any comments or questions right below this video. I'm probably going to do a series of videos around this idea of creative planning your way, because I do see so many of my clients in my Creative Renaissance program, in my Sacred Circles membership, talking about their struggles with finding time. And sometimes the struggles to find time are logistical. We're not making the time. Sometimes they're emotional. We're in resistance, or we feel selfish and we're putting everyone else first. There's a lot of reason why we don't prioritize our most important projects. They can be scary because they require us to put ourselves out there in all new ways. So we want to start to craft a vision of what's possible for ourselves, especially when it comes to our creative life. And I don't know about the rest of you. One of the reasons I created this is because I'm a planner junkie. I buy new planners every year, sometimes a few times a year, always trying to find that perfect fit planner, and I haven't found it yet. So I thought, what if I just put a whole bunch of stuff together and created my own? So the concept here is you're not going to use all the pages. You're going to pick the pages that feel best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and change my camera here. I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Let me see if I can change these lights up a little bit. There we go. Get that back a little bit brighter on the page there. That's better. So here is the printable Creative Planning Your Way. Kudos to my son Connor, who did the beautiful design for these. And the planner is broken up into a couple of different sections. The first section is actual planner pages, and the second section is self-care pages. I am still on the hunt for ways to track the habits that I want to implement, and looking for what are the habits that are going to support me in my creative life, right? So not just, obviously going for a walk is a great habit. It makes me feel good, and it has a positive impact on my art because I have more energy, more clarity. So all of these things are going to matter as we start to curate the pages that are best for us. So the first page is yearly goals. Now, I know a lot of people resist using the word goals, and here's why I think it's so important to have goals. So in our Creative Compass workbook, we have this beautiful wheel of life. And what I see from women is that goals, especially once we get into our 50s or 60s and our 70s, is that goals tend to not feel very important. But goals are the things that move us forward towards living a better life, to getting done more of what we want to have done. And I almost feel like I might go change that one word there and rather, or maybe add, or I'll just, you have the choice. So some of you that are listening to this are still in careers. Some of you are retired. Some of you might be stay-at-home moms. So this might be career/creative goals. But I have goals in every single one of these areas. And some of them are small. Some of them are big, right? Some of them are professional, some of them are personal, some of them are driven by kids and spouse and things we want in terms of relationships, right? So it's important to look at this. And the reason I believe that we all stopped wanting to set goals is because we didn't know how to do it well, and we usually set ourselves up for failure rather than success. So having some ideas here about what do I want to accomplish this year, this is the place to be dreamy, to let those goals be kind of big. Maybe they're going to be super specific and maybe not. So I think it's important to take a look at what do I want to accomplish this year. So if you don't like goals, maybe it's accomplishments. Or maybe it's dreams. For some people, I often really like the word intentions. And I'm looking at this thinking we need a place in the planner to put word of the year, because my word of the year often has everything to do with what I'm striving for and on at the level of the goals. And I knew that I would make changes to the planner as soon as I started talking my way through it. I'm such a verbal processor, but I think it would be helpful to put your word of the year in here. It would be helpful to have our core values in here, because when we're in alignment with our core values and our goals are related to our values, they're more meaningful and we're more likely to move in that direction. So to me, this is kind of the big goals, the ideas. And then we have a couple of different versions because we all think and process information differently, we have a couple of different ways of playing with your goals. So here's a goal action planner. Describe the goal. So important. Why do you want it? Why does it matter? If we don't know the why, we're probably not going to achieve it. And if the why is because I should, that goal isn't going to happen. So you need to understand why a goal is important. You need to know when you're starting and what's your projected or estimated time for completion. I have started working on my book. I had a deadline. I'm already past that deadline, so I am renegotiating with myself about when that deadline is. What are the steps I need to take, and when do I want to take those? Now, here's the thing. When you start to see these dates in here, creatives tend to go into resistance or doubt or fear or procrastination, all the things. So remember that everything in this planner has to be flexible, right? Down here, you can sort of take a look and be really honest with yourself. The trick I have learned to achieving anything that you want in life is being 100% honest with yourself all the time. Telling the truth to yourself, not sabotaging yourself or admitting it when you are, but being honest about how am I doing here? Not from a place of, oh, I'm a bad person because I only did 20% of what I set out to, but looking at that going, well, I only did 20% because we had a loss in the family, or maybe we decided to move across country like I did 2 years ago. And so some of my big goals really fell way down low on the to-do list because other things took priority. So I don't have judgment about how much I'm getting done, right? No judgment, just noticing. This is just feedback. It's just information. And then when you look at this, you can start to understand some of your potential obstacles and what's in your personal toolkit for overcoming those obstacles. Another version of it is, this is my favorite. This is a much more visual version of a big dream planner. So I might use this for plotting and planning how I'm going to get my book written, for example. And I have a few clients I'm working with on book projects right now, and it's so much fun to help them take these big ideas and break them down into baby bite-sized steps. So if I put complete my book by X date in here, then I start to write down what are the actions that I need to take. And under that action, how can I break that down? So the secret, I would say, to my success, people are like, how do you get so much done? And how do you produce so much all the time? Well, the secret is that I've learned how to take a project and break it down into baby steps, right? Break it down into small tasks. And that way, every day I'm moving through tasks. I'm not trying to complete project. I'm just moving through the next tasks on my list. And then we can go even further and deeper. Excuse me. So again, this is about, are you a more linear thinker? Are you a more visual thinker? Do you need to really be able to break it down and understand how to break things down into bite-sized tasks? So you're going to pick one version of this, not all the versions, right? This is one of my favorite things that I have been teaching my clients for close to 15 years now. When a client comes to me and says that they're completely overwhelmed, I know that what they need to do is get everything out of our heads and onto paper, because we tend to hold so many to-dos in our heads. And also, when we make this list of tasks, we discover that many of the things on this brain dump list are projects that feel daunting until we break them down. So we might have to come back over here and take one of the projects from this brain dump and break it down into smaller tasks so that we can actually get our arms around it and see our way to getting it done. So this is a great thing to do at least once a month. For some people, it's once a week, just constantly getting things out of your head and onto paper so you can see them. Because when you can see them, you can make decisions about which one comes first, which one comes next, which one's not mine to do, and I could delegate it to someone else, like my kids or my spouse, or ask someone to come in and help. I have a friend who her moved her business during the pandemic into her basement, and there's a lot of stuff down there that needs to be sorted through. Well, her best friend came and sat with her to help sort, send things to the dump, things to recycling, right? Sometimes what we need is just to ask for support. And then you can also look at the things that continue to show up on this list week after week after week that really you're never going to get done. It's probably a should or something you think you ought to do, but you don't really want to do it. So get honest with yourself about your list of projects versus tasks. A book is a project. Writing 500 words today is a task. Another example is I have a painting that I'm working on. The design for the painting was a task. I have a vision for what I want the painting to look like. First step was the design. Second step was to gesso the canvas. The next task was to paint the background. The next task was to transfer the design to the canvas and then to start painting little by little. But if I just put finish my mandala painting on my list, it's a little daunting because right now I'm in the messy middle of the painting and it's frustrating. So knowing that, I can break it down even further. Let me try this one thing. If I don't like it, I know I can paint it over. So brain dumps can become your absolute best friend, especially when you're feeling stuck or in overwhelm. We've given you 2 month at a glance templates that are completely undated and that you can have fun with. You may already have a planner like this that you're using. Great, use it. I'm not trying to get you to change things up, but what I love about these printable months at a glance is that I can plot things out. I can play on these pages with the pencil before I put them into my Google Calendar or my paper calendar that I use for planning. This is the way I can start to look and see what my creative goals are. What am I working on? What am I trying to complete in the next 30 days? What am I trying to start in the next 30 days? And I can be really realistic about, do I have time for all of these, right? Do I have time for all of these? And most of the time we tend to either underestimate or severely overestimate the amount of time a project takes. So the more we start to plot out our projects, the more we start to understand how much time is actually needed, which also eliminates overwhelm and that feeling of stuckness. Gratitudes, I deeply believe in the power of gratitudes to shift our feelings and our emotions and help us move towards our goals. So we have I'll show you both 2 different gratitude lists, but to me, this is an important thing to have in my calendar where I can just, whenever I think about it, I can pop in and write down at least 1 gratitude a day. Then on this page is a monthly review. One of the things that we're not ever taught to do, we're taught to plan, we're taught to be super productive, you got to do more. Well, I'm a big fan of let's not do more. Let's do enough and see how we feel at the end of the month. Or let's do less. Let's plan more time for play and art and rest and see how we feel at the end of the month. So most of us tend to do our planning, but we never come back and check in with ourselves. How did it go? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? So I think adding a monthly review page to your personal planner is super powerful. I also believe that in addition to all the other things that we have to get done just to live our lives, that we need creative goals or intentions. That could be 5 minutes a day. It could be 15 minutes a day. It could be, well, I don't have time Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'm going to make an hour. So getting clear about what do you want your creative life to look like, because once you know what you want it to look like, you know how to fit it into your schedule, you're way more likely and committed to getting it done. All right. This is a week of gratitude page. This is a really fun page. Again, kudos to my son Connor for all the gorgeous designs. So this is a daily gratitude list, place for affirmations, songs, food, movies, a little doodle, right? Compliments that you tell yourself, little things that made your week awesome, big things that made your week unforgettable. This is like that monthly review, but at the weekly level. So you work on this all week long, and then at the end of the week, you pause. This is self-care, my friends. This is radical self-care, is pausing to celebrate what do you love, what's going right, what's working, right? It's so easy to get caught up and buried in the what's not working. Let's spend some time on what is working. Daily schedule, if you need one, here's some ideas for some daily planners that include, this one includes gratitudes, right? This one includes some self-care. So some fun ideas for planners. Any of these would translate to bullet journaling or any of the other kind of creative planning that you love to do. Really love this one. Again, that daily personal reflection. What I love most about this one in particular is again, that idea of reflection. And also, for me personally, I'm still looking for a better evening routine. Like my morning routine is solid. I love it. And it makes me happy and gets my day started. But I tend to get caught up in, sitting in front of the TV, coloring or drawing and hanging out with my husband. And all of a sudden the day's just gone. And I know that I would benefit from some reflection, but a blank journal page was not getting me there. So to me, this is a super simple thing that I can do in 5 to 10 minutes to come back to center and just notice how's my day going. And then as I keep track of these day after day, week after week, I start to see trends. I start to see my ups and downs, my moods, right? I start to look at how much is going right. I start to notice what's causing me to have days that I don't feel great about. And then I can make changes. So this is like achievements, right? It's looking back going, here's all the things that's are working, and here's what's not working. So here's my opportunity for growth and change. So daily reflection sheets are the bomb. Here's a daily checklist. I'm a big fan. Like this one is way too long for me, but if I included both my habits and my to-dos on this, it would probably be okay. But if you love a printable daily checklist that you can complete and then toss away, I usually do mine on a sticky note every morning. I have a checklist for the day combined with my digital calendar, but I kind of like dividing it up by times of day, making sure I'm getting things done like exercise and maybe food prep, making sure that I'm getting up and walking and moving. So this for me, because I use other planners, this isn't about meetings or people. This is about the things I'm doing to take care of myself. Okay, I'm going to pause there because this is getting kind of long. And on part 2 of this video, I will come back and walk you through the self-care pages. Hopefully this is helpful, giving you some ideas for how to think differently about planning and how to think about structuring a planner that would work for you and your preferred way to capture information. You may resist planning altogether. Well, that's fine too. And if you do, I want to just remind you that having an idea of where you're going without even needing to know all the details will help opportunities show up and will help you move in the direction of your goals and your dreams, because we spend a lot of time talking about what we want to accomplish, and we spend way more time talking and thinking than doing. And I'm a big fan of making time for taking action on the things that we say are most important to us. So hope you enjoy, and I will see you in part 2 of this video where we will talk about our self-care planner. I'll see you over there in a bit.